In a world full of overlanders, one group of friends with Jeeps, Discos, Tundras, and... no, that's it, just Jeeps, Discos, and Tundras. Set out to overland the high deserts of Idaho in the winter. Will they get their rigs dirty? Will they find epic camp spots? Will they make it home? Yes, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Overlanding, like you've seen it many times before, but this time we only have one rule. If you're not here to have fun, then it's time to go home. That was pretty intense. I think I need a break. The Knuckleheads were finally back together again. Who are the Knuckleheads, you ask? Well, these are some of my best friends and overlanding compatriots. Let's start with Tim, who's the youngest, drives a Disco LR3, and is the wild card of the group.
I'm about to take my shirt off the rest of the way.
Next, we have Lance, the manliest man in the world, who drives a Toyota Tundra that we call the Dreadnought, and is one of the kindest guys on the planet. Then there's Ryan, the jester of the group, who drives a stock Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and is a tactical expert and a pilot. And if you've watched this channel at all, you've seen Chris, who's been my best friend since college, is the soul of the group and is an excellent problem solver. So, we set out on a midwinter trip to one of the most remote places in the United States, the Bruneau Desert. So we are on our way to Grasmere, but man, it is getting to be more and more remote. There's nobody out here. There's hardly any cars on the pavement, and so I expect us to have a very peaceful evening tonight. Should we be able to decide as a group where we're going to go and set up camp? We were hitting dirt around Grasmere, Idaho, a new ghost town. By new, I meant that it was put up for sale in 2005, but nobody wants to buy it, so it's slowly disintegrating back into the earth. We were excited to see it until we arrived and saw the state that it was in. This place has none of the mystery and charm of older mining ghost towns. Instead, it kind of looks like the scene of a crime. There used to be a gas station and a general store here, but it looks like folks picked up in the middle of the night in a hurry. Needless to say, we didn't spend much time here, as the sun was starting to set, and we needed to figure out where we'd be spending the night. I had a few ideas that I radioed to the guys as we hit dirt.
I spotted out some short routes, 5-10 miles from Grasmere, that terminate on what looks to be like an overlook of a river gorge or a canyon of some sort.
So here we were, the Bruneau Desert. These sagebrush plains are the stuff of Wild West legends. Imagine cowboys and cattle drives pushing up from Texas to feed the hungry miners, homesteaders trying to make something of the land, and Native Americans trying to protect what was theirs in the midst of an ever-expanding United States of America. With all of that history swirling in the dust around us, the area is as remote as you could hope for, with only a few maintained roads, as we would soon find out. That is, if I could keep myself on the current road.
Wildo. Hey, if you're gonna go in, that was a good place.
I know, I was like, I'm going in, I'm just gonna turn the wheels towards the snowbank. Note to self, when trying to lead the group, follow the map, and make a video, rule number 1 is to keep your eyes on the road. Come on, Will, you know better than that. It wasn't long until we found one of the spur roads I had marked on the map. We were excited to find some rougher roads, and all signs pointed to us being the first rigs on these roads this year.
Lock those wheels and get after it, Will.
Let's do this.
The roads were in decent shape considering they were barely roads to begin with. The rigs were happy to have a mix of snow, dirt, and rocks, and a little mud where some of the snowmelt was draining.
Right at the bottom of that drainage, you just need to hit it. I'll keep going just in case I need to get pulled out. I think that time is way past.
We were heading about 6 miles back on a spur road that I thought would lead us to a canyon rim spot. The problem was it was getting dark fast, and this is one of the darkest areas in the country, so we didn't want to be hunting for camp when we could barely see what was in front of us. Luckily, my Gaia GPS pin drop turned out to be a killer spot to stay for the night. We pulled in, set up camp, and settled in for the night. All right, so we're set up at camp tonight. It's my Jeep. There's Lance's Tundra over there. Here's Chris's Jeep. And for dinner, we had a keto elk stew with, I brought the accoutrement for it, with sour cream, chives, guacamole, and cheese. And of course, we have some whiskey this is from New Mexico. But that's what we're eating tonight. Hey, thanks, Chris. That chili was delicious, man.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers, brah.
Cheers, bro.
And Lance, let's check out. Let's see what Lance is eating.
We got some deer back strap. We got some bacon. We got mini portobellos. We got asparagus, avocado chunks.
Yeah, that doesn't look bad. All right, so Ryan, this is the first time I've ever seen you actually cook a meal. What do you got here?
I feel attacked.
Yeah.
First of all.
Why do you feel attacked?
Because you just make fun of me because I'm the weak one in the group. But
I mean,
you know what? It's behind me. I made it through here without my lifted Jeep.
I didn't want to say anything, but yeah.
So I made a brat and grilled it with some onions and butter. Got some old school mustard with like the chunky seeds in there.
Yeah, stone.
Little salad. I think this dressing is not keto, but don't tell Lance. But when I was standing over there, here's the key to good cooking. You got to stand in a pile of mud. Okay. There you go.
Oh, that's the sign of a good cook,
you
right there.
Swipe your sausage in there. And, yeah, you can't just stand on dry ground. You got to be like 3 inches in mud while you're frying up your sausage.
Yeah. And for the rest of the night, it was just us and the coyotes out in the middle of the Bruneau Desert. Turns out it doesn't take much to have a good time. Fire, friends, maybe a little whiskey, and no one around for miles. It wasn't until the morning when we'd realize just how alone we really were out there. The sun brought us the light to see where we were, which was right on the edge of a 600-foot cliff with the Bruneau River running below. Being out here kind of feels like you found a secret that only a few people know about. And what's fun about it is that you have to earn it. You can't just make a reservation and show up. You have to put yourself out there, use your instincts, and trust that you'll find it. Good morning. It is a peaceful, quiet morning. We are in this part of Idaho that is just forgotten. It's forgotten. There's nothing out here. There was no wildlife last night. There's no sounds. There's no wind. It almost feels like a sensory deprivation chamber or something. Because we had a few different setups on this trip, I did a quick check with the guys on their sleeping gear. Chris, you were the most adventurous of the 5 of us last night because you decided to sleep in this little teeny tiny North Face bivvy that we have nicknamed the sarcophagus.
Yeah.
So how was it?
It was like sleeping in a sarcophagus. I think between the high quality build and the ice that was on top of it, it kind of made it airtight. And so I would wake up and I had to like open up the zipper to breathe. So it happened all night.
Okay, so the big question is, are you going to sleep in that thing again, or are you going to come join me in my rooftop tent?
Yeah, so can I crash at your pad there, Willis? Because I can't do that again. I got a monster headache this morning.
I'll do it. Yeah, dude, of course you can sleep in the tent. Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
So, Ryan, you were just in a regular ground tent last night, this little North Face thing. It was in the 20s last night. It was cold.
Yeah. I think the key is with stuff like that, you have to have a lot of padding underneath. I put 3 pads under me. So.
Oh, yeah.
I'm also going to, tonight, though, I'm going to try and accept Chris's challenge that the bivvy is a 2-man bivvy. So, all right.
So Lance, you sleep in your rooftop tent no matter what time of year with all the vents, all the windows open. Why is that?
Well, I really do it for condensation, and because the main reason why I sleep in this rooftop tent is stargazing.
Wait a minute. You bought this super expensive, really big tent so you could stargaze? Why not just put a bivvy on the ground?
Because I bought a big tent to put on my roof.
We had a long day of driving ahead of us, so we were eager to hit the trail early. Well, most of us were anyway.
Okay, so what do you do when you're all packed up and you're with your buddies and you're waiting for them to get their stuff packed up? Well, you can encourage them, you can help them, you can ridicule them. We have a different take. So Ryan's done, Chris is done, Lance is almost done. Tim over there hasn't even packed up his tent yet, so we're just gonna set up a little spectator ring and watch. How's it going, Tim? What do you think, like 5 minutes out?
About an hour.
Yep, just a little to the left there.
I think you've got everybody really nervous, and so we're all gonna be at 5 in the morning, headlamps on, packing up, so we're not the last one out. Like, I'm not gonna be the last one this time.
I relax when I'm at camp with Garza because I know I'm never going to be last breaking down camp.
Thanks, Tim. We appreciate you.
Oh yes,
That's right.
service you bring.
We don't appreciate you mostly, but there are things about not appreciating you that we appreciate about you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well
That's
said.
appreciated. You gotta go until you hear it crack.
Oh, yes, that's gonna come off later. That's definitely coming off later. With just a few more minor things to attach to Boris, our favorite worst disco LR3 in the world, we were ready to head out. And I gotta say, we love giving each other a hard time for just about everything. And Tim was just an easy target this morning.
Yeah, it's always throwing codes.
Are you worried that like those codes are meaningful? That they are like being thrown for a reason?
Nah.
So we've gotten ourselves kind of way out here, which is a lot of fun, but we got to backtrack a little bit today to get back to the main road so we can cross over this incredibly beautiful river gorge. We're going to cross over that, come back the other side, and then drop down into another river gorge. And then who knows? And then the day's just wide open. We don't know what we're going to do.
Whew, I'm out of breath because I was running around getting the camera. But you know, I don't mind getting a little exercise on these trips either. So, the trail that we're on, it looks like we're the first ones on it for a while at least. It's not too muddy, it's still cold enough that the trail's holding pretty firm. There's enough rocks in it to kind of keep it from forming too big of ruts. And I think we're gonna get into some rocky stuff coming up here as we descend down the edge of this river canyon into the Drawbridge River. Before we got to the rocks, we had another problem. Not so much for the rigs, but the trail was in bad shape in a few places, and we had to decide whether or not to continue. I want to point out that this is a gray area for trail etiquette. The trails we were on were 90% in great shape, but as the sun warmed things up, there were a few sketchy spots, so we had to make a call. I think it's very deep. But it's muddy as hell. I also want to point out that we were on public land. None of it was closed for the winter, but if I had to do it again, I might just make a different call. There's already a bypass here. I'm generally not a fan of bypasses.
Well, it's already here.
It's already here.
Yeah, it's a well-used one
And actually, if you could stay, yeah, you'll be fine.
The right bypass I think will all be fine. It'll just be muddy. Like it'll be dirty, but I say we take the right one. I think I'm gonna go through first because I have a winch. So if anybody else gets stuck, I can winch him from that side. Chris is gonna be last, so he'll have a winch on this side. And it's probably gonna be like not dramatic at all, but we're trying to be smart about it.
Yeah. Also, from this angle, it looks like your Jeep's my Jeep on steroids.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that's a good call.
We all got through with no issues. It wasn't really that big of a deal for the rigs. We decided to spread out our tracks to make a little less impact on the trail, but this wouldn't be our last encounter with the mud on this trail. We were now traveling painfully slow. The terrain was switching between snow, mud, and sharp volcanic rocks that made us all a bit nervous. We were out there in near perfect weather conditions, but this is the kind of place that can make you pay big time if something goes wrong, so we didn't rush it. We finally reached the edge of the canyon we'd been looking for. It's called the Bruneau Cherry Stem. This is the road I'd planned the whole trip around. It's generally considered dangerous, so naturally, I was really looking forward to it. However, when we got out to walk the trail, my enthusiasm started to wane.
Yeah, man, I don't know.
So we've come to this road with a nice sign out in front that's called the Bruneau Cherry Stem, and this is a pretty technical road with a really steep grade that basically cuts into this canyon side and runs down to the Jarbidge River and then comes back up the other side. And we knew that it was going to be chancy because it's February and we're out here, and so we took a walk. We walked almost the whole thing before we started driving down this. The decision is that it's way too risky because it's at least 1/3 of it, if not a half of it, is covered in snow. There's also what I would say a very large boulder right in the middle of the trail that has obviously fallen down the hill during the winter, and we could try to get down there and winch it out, but the truth is it's such a steep grade and there's so much snow that we're all concerned about being able to control our descent, especially since it's coming down a relative curve down the mountain. And so we've decided not today. Because if something bad were to happen, how could we possibly justify the decision to drive down this road at this time of year in these conditions? I think we're gonna stay on this side of the canyon today and just go find an epic spot to just hang out, have good company and fellowship with the guys, and see what the rest of the day and tomorrow brings.
So we did something that we rarely do. We turned back. I'd spotted what looked like a very sparsely used road a few miles back that I had a hunch would make everyone, including myself, forget about the cherry stem. Along the way, my mind began to consider the land that we were on. This forgotten part of the country has a rich history. This land was inhabited by the Shoshone Native Americans until the mid-1800s when gold, silver, and other deposits were found in the Owyhees, which brought in miners, homesteaders, and ranchers who began competing for resources and game. This competition spawned the Snake War between the Native American tribes and the U.S. government. Being here ourselves and seeing the herds of game and scant amount of water, I can imagine how people who are trying to survive might take extraordinary measures to protect their families and communities, and how communication and empathy can make the difference between being a target or being an exception in a conflict. History lesson aside, Chris and I found the spot on the map I had marked, and when we got there, we instantly knew what a special find this was. We had found another canyon rim spot. This one may be even better than what we had last night. This spot was looking towards the Jarbidge River Valley with the Jarbidge Mountain to the south of us. We felt like we had won the lottery again, so we decided to set up camp, take stock of our surroundings, and everyone forgot all about the cherry stem incident. However, one thing was impossible to forget or ignore, and that was the amount of mud on our rigs. I actually had to reattach my license plate holder because the weight of the mud had pulled it out.
Okay, I've never had this much mud on my Jeep before. So from a distance, it looks like, yeah, there's a good coat of mud, but when you get up close and you see how thick this mud is, there's a good 1.5 inches or so of mud. There's probably, I don't know. Oh, you can see the fender right in there. So you can see how much mud is on top of the fender. We don't like going mudding because the cleanup afterward is just gonna be crazy. But those roads led us here, and it was totally worth it.
As the sun set, we realized that the whiskey we brought wouldn't be enough for dinner, so we started cooking.
Okay, here's what we're making for dinner tonight. We're gonna have this steak with a little bit of herb butter on it. Just gonna let that butter kind of melt into the steak while it's cooking. And then over here we have Brussels sprouts and bacon and some herb butter. And I think it's gonna be delicious.
And you put the steak underneath it.
So wait a minute, so you're gonna cook the bacon, let it just get nice and cooked and greasy.
Yeah.
And then you put the steak on top of it.
And then you put the steak underneath the bacon.
And put the bacon on top of it.
And then so the steak is in the juice with the bacon on top of the steak.
Yeah, that dog will hunt.
Yeah.
Being out this far, seeing things from a perspective that few people have ever experienced, and being surrounded by my knucklehead friends, I realized that the thing that brought me out here to this space that separates me from the rest of the world, it's also the thing that brings us together as friends. So there we were, together, loving every minute of it. And when we went to bed that night, I think we all dreamed of mud pits and cherry stems, and bacon marinated deer steaks. The next morning we were all up early. No one wanted to be last to pack up camp, I think. But it gave us time to just sit on the edge of a canyon and watch the sunrise, you know? Just like everyday stuff, no big deal. But we did have to get out early. We had lots of reasons to pack up and get on the road, so we all got ready to hit the trail right on time. Well, almost.
So we're all packed up. We're getting ready to hit the trail again. And we're a little bit later than we wanted to because we had to wait for Tim again, which is fine. He's a great guy, but we like to give him a hard time about it. So the reason that we want to leave early is because these roads were super sloppy and muddy and gross yesterday when the sun had warmed up and softened everything. And right now it's still cool enough that the road should be firmer, which should make for a better drive, less corrosion, all of those things. And so that's why we're trying to get an early start today. So they just radioed me that they're ready to go. Let's do some wheeling.
As locals, we have a saying that goes, we don't talk about Bruno. No, no, no. But now that you know about Bruno, what are you going to do about it?